Welcome back. This is China Now, and we're in hour two. And I have selected something to challenge Nan Su with because I think he can really use this as a way of really educating us about what it's like to live and work in China. And our subject for the event is a man who here fairly recently, Lu Zhifei, who's a Chinese local government employee in rural Guangdong, who got into trouble because he was telling the truth about bees and other things. And really, in doing so and telling the truth, essentially was a big threat to the Chinese Communist Party. And so he had to run for it, and ended up here in the United States and told his story to the Epoch Times. And so I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to really have a look into what's going on in China. So, Lou, who fled to the United States last year, told the Epoch Times how he was forced to make up animal farming statistics to match the communist regime's GDP target. He also alleged that his superiors and colleagues fined farmers on bogus charges to fill government coffers and targeted him for speaking out against such practices. I guess in a way, it would be like accusing the California Highway Patrol of working on commissions or something like that. You guys are writing too many tickets. But that's what they have to do in rural provinces now because of the fix that the central government forced everybody into by demanding 5% increases in the gross national product every year. So if you think about that, ladies and gentlemen, that's a lot. That's a lot of growth. So how do you maintain a 5% growth every year? Boy, you can get rich doing that, right?
Well, that's what Chinese Communist Party, the central control economy, they always do that. What they do is they now doesn't mean every number it's a fake. Doesn't mean every number it's a fake. But that's how. But however, once they start doing that, that's how you see those ghost towns being built. Because they need a GDP, right?
Right.
Doesn't mean they really benefit anybody. But however, in order to accomplish those GDP, they have to do that. Now, you know where the 5% is from?
Well, I don't, but it's always 5%. Where did they come up with this?
No, no, no. It used to be a lot higher, But in 2020, 2020, Xi Jinping had this ambitious plan by 2035 from 20 using 2020 as a reference point, from 2020 to 2035, and his goal is to double the GDP of China. So now you break it down for the 15 years. What they break it down is every year you have to minimum get like a 4.7 or 4.8% in order to double their entire GDP by 2035. So that's his political ambition. So that's why, and once that goal is set, that's that's how the central control economy is. Once that goal is set, they will break it down. Okay,
Once
they
you're
will
there,
break.
you're there, right?
Right, and
Mhm.
then they will give every provinces, and then every different administrative district. They will give you different part of the work. So in order to meet that 5%, see, they don't try to create that goal. It's not to create a job opportunities. It's not to make people's life better. their goal is to meet the percentage, because that's a political goal. Once it's set, they will do whatever
Whatever it takes.
it takes, because for you think about it, in that system, for all different level of government officials to, if they want their career goal to accomplish, they want to get a
Right.
promotion, they have to accomplish those goals. So then they start doing whatever it
Whatever it
need
takes. Yeah.
that's, they will build ghost towns, they will build on the same river, or that already built like 5 bridges. They're going to
Right.
go there to build another five. What that's what happens. So and sometimes in some of the districts, you're going to see the what was reported in this article. Then some of the they they have a difficult time to get their numbers, so they will start faking their book.
Well, now, if we look back and see what happens when you have to grow at 5% a year, and the way you grow is to build things. You can't really spend on consumer goods. So the way communities grow is they grow, like Nansu was saying, by building things. If you have 4 bridges going over a gorge, build another bridge and just keep that
That's
way you
it.
keep growing. But
Yeah.
the money for this is borrowed from somewhere. And so as you grow 5% a year, the money you have borrowed, the money you have borrowed to grow 5% a year increases in size. Your debt ratio goes bananas. So as the debt grows and the cost to service that debt grows, the more desperate the local officials become at getting the money.
It's true. Now, and that's why, that's the next thing, it's eventually the economy will facing tremendous challenge. And then that's in fact what China is facing right now. So, and that's why, in the last few years, last like 5, 6 years, China it's in the expanding mode. They want to quickly expanding their economic power. So they ended up with this Belt and Roads project. They're going overseas to get this thing job done, to keep this GDP growing, and and then also keep their they need to pay more and more debts. So they're looking for that. They don't care about their domestic
Right.
demand. They're going overseas, and then when they meet the resistance, because everywhere, all around the world, China want to become the factory of the world. This is a crazy plan. I mean, think about this. They want to manufacture everything in the world. And what about the people living in the other country? How they're going to get their job and then get paid, right? So if you manufacture everything, then the other this is a crazy
Yeah,
this is a crazy
this
job.
takes us right back to the rare earth problem. Yes, America has enough rare earth. No, it's not available because we haven't developed it. Now, why didn't we develop it? Well, it was because we could get it from China less than we could dig it out of the ground. China was the low cost producer. Why was China the low cost producer? Because it was subsidizing the digging up of rare earths and processing them. So the companies that were doing the digging and processing and selling were getting paid to do that by the CCP. And the same is true with automobiles, with solar infrastructure, green energy, and the whole works. So China picked those industries out, laid them on the table. These are the industries we must dominate to dominate the world. And so that's what they've been doing. And they've been lending a lot of money to countries like Sri Lanka, who have no ability to pay them back at all. And
Yeah, Same
And
way to Myanmar, right? Right now, they're Myanmar also a part of the Belt and Road Project, and Chinese government control a lot of rare earth mining industry in Myanmar, and then they send Chinese labor to Myanmar because Myanmar, they had that country it's having a lot of trouble. So they sell those mining rights to China, and China it's doing the mining in Myanmar, and then transport all the rare earths they get from Myanmar and back to China. It's just that there's all these things going on. They're they are facing more and more economic challenges, so they're going around after all the countries and around the world to solve their own problems. So that's why all these escalating tensions going on in the Western Pacific.
there you go. So that is the situation in which Liu Zhifei finds himself, who is the local government employee, Guangdong province, which is the province that holds Hong Kong, right, Nansu?
Right next to Hong Kong.
Right
That
next.
it doesn't hold Hong Kong. Hong Kong is its own district.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
Hong Kong, it's its own provincial district. It's the same level. It's at the same level of Guangdong.
Kind of like Washington, D.C.
Yeah, more or less. Like Macau is its own district.
Mhm.
Hong Kong is its own district. But they are the provincial district. So the governor of Hong Kong, it's the same level official of government of Guangdong.
Okay. So Liu took this job in the countryside. One reason because he came from the country. He was from a poor farm family, and he took this job because it represented the opportunity for an iron rice bowl. What does that mean, Nansu?
I'm rice board. Oh yeah, 铁饭碗, meaning government, meaning that if you work for the private industry, your job may not be secure, so that the rice board may be made of
Paper.
not,
Mm,
not necessarily paper, maybe just made of those pot, you know,
yeah,
uh, like a pot.
ceramic.
Yeah, ceramic. You drop, it will break. But if you go to work for government, it means it's an iron rice ball. Then if you drop to the ground, it will
It
not
won't
break.
break.
Meaning it's unshakable, right?
So what an opportunity for a poor country boy to get a job like that
Yeah,
when it
yeah.
comes right down to it. And he was a doctoral candidate, which means the guy who's had a lot on the ball. He had to go through an examination. He had to go
Oh, a
through,
lot of examination. It's very hard to get a government job nowadays in China.
but he had one.
Yeah.
And but as he came from this rural area in Jiangxi and was working in the district in Guangzhou, he started butting up against the powers that be because of his reporting requirements. And as we've been talking about, he became in charge of essentially reporting the number of farmers and the number of crops and so on. And he was never given enough time to do the job. And furthermore, he was also responsible for cataloging the evidence that the farm police would bring against farmers. So the farm police, for example, they grow lychee nut there, and it's a big crop, and you can only use certain kinds of pesticides on it. And if the farm police find a can of unauthorized pesticide on the farm, they'll blame you for it, and it'll cost you $8,000 if they catch you, or much more than that if you're part of a co-op. So it'll cost much more than that. So government is really going after the farmers. And as a farm boy himself, as one who came from a farm, he says, he just couldn't bear it. And so he complained, and that was the first time he got into trouble. And so what happens when you get into trouble? The CCP comes knocking on your door.
Yeah, they don't have to knock on his door. That in his case, he worked for the government. He go to the government office every day. He's
Yes.
supposedly the first trouble he see is from his boss, right?
Yes. And his boss, said, "What are you doing? Are you going crazy on us here?" And the uh, Fed said, "No, this is not true. This is not right for us to be fining the farmers to the extent that they can't do business." And what was happening is that the local government, because of all the borrowing that they have done building 4 bridges over a canyon, is hungry for money, so that they're fining everybody for everything, and farmers are one of those getting fined. Because where are you going to go if you're a farmer?
Oh well,
I mean,
it's
if you're
true. Those fines go through the roof in the last few years because Chinese government is out of money while the economy goes down. They are there was I didn't I besides this case that what I read was there were tremendous delivery boys in the city, that nowadays that's the very often most of the college graduates.
right, what are you going to do for a living? You're going to be
Yeah,
delivery
yeah,
boy.
they become a delivery boy, right? So and then they ride a bike. Usually those are electrical bike. They will
Right,
ride the electrical bike because it's very easy to
maneuver around, and yeah,
maneuver around, and then of course sometimes they have to go in the traffic or whatever, to reach their destination, and that's how the policeman will go after them, give them a ticket. Those ticket numbers jump up a lot in the recent years. That's many how many cities actually survive.
yeah. Well, according to a 2023 report published by the independent think tank Macro Research out of Beijing, Institute of Information Technology, between 2015 and 2021, that 6-year period there, the proportion of land and property related income grew from 26% to 36.7% of all local government income. So, wow, just like that, it's more than a third of all their income. Since 2022, total local government income from selling the right to use land that had been in decline for 3 consecutive years. So they were selling the land to developers, and all of a sudden, with all those ghost cities around, there was no need to build more property because nobody was buying it. So, according to the figures published by the Ministry of Finance in 2022, the figure was 6.7 trillion yuan, around $930 billion, a 23% drop from 2021. So they were making all this money from selling land, and now it's all gone. They
It's
have to
because
find,
developers, don't buy it anymore because they don't sell. They're not able to, for number one, they're those they have a bunch of unfinished housing units held in their own hands, and also there are a bunch of finished units that cannot be sold. And number three, they also have plenty of lands they in their hands. They don't know what to do with them, so they're not buying any more new lands. They don't make any new purchases from
right?
the local government. That's how the local government running out of money.
And what to do? Well, you had to get the money from someplace because your your time in the CCP is
You need
predicated.
to you need to still have to make the 5%,
Yeah, you
right?
got to get the 5%. So how are you going to get it? The only thing left is to wring it out of your residents' pocketbooks, and that's exactly what we're doing. So
Yeah. Besides that, and also then in many cities, I read online there are many city residents that complain, um, you know, their local utility companies will come to knock their doors to say they need to replace their meters, though, for gas and for water and electricity. And they say, well, we have these new ones for free. We will replace them for you, for your safety and everything else. And what happened is once they replace those meters, they see their bills go up.
Zoom, yes.
And then I read many stories. There were guys saying, "Hey, I've not been home. I'm in vacation, but those meters keep going."
So this is endemic throughout the Chinese economy now.
Right.
If you're a truck driver on the road, they have safety checks and they pull all the trucks over and they write you up for tickets. And if you're selling vegetables at the fruit stand or vegetable stand, they're going to find you and fine you. Restaurants, everything is getting hit up for more money by the
Yep.
government.
Yep.
And so Luau talks to Epoch Times here, and he said, we've always gone with he's talking about the traditional 5% target. So we've always gone with the national GDP targets. We have a national target for annual GDP at the beginning of the year. And for instance, the target was around 5% in 2023. So what we do is increase all the figures from the previous year by 5.5%, fill in those numbers on the report. And that was how all of the reports are being made. You just do what the government tells you to do, because that's how you survive. In 2023, the Chinese regime reported a 5.2% annual increase in GDP. Now, the interesting thing is that Luo said, despite the some 5% increases on the books, in reality, most of the farmers weren't making any money. And we're losing money, in fact, throughout the pandemic and now. So, judging by the conversations I've had with him, 70 to 80% of the farmers are losing money. So, how long does this go on before there's no food? And so, in December 2023, Luo openly questioned the price of honey in local statistics, and that was the end of him. And he had to make a break for it, or they were going to send him to a mental institution for being unwell. How does that work? A mental institution, is that in lieu of
Yeah, that's
prison or
that's
something?
that's that's because he's stubborn. He really tried to tell a true story. And that's I have many friends who practicing Falun Gong. The government want them to give up their meditation exercise, and then they end up either in jail, in detention center, or in mental hospitals. Unfortunately, many of those people, they were completely normal, but when they get out of there finally, they become they some of them actually lost their sanity. So it's very tragic. They will give you the medicines. They will they
Yeah.
will torture you until you
Yeah, you know what?
they'll make normal people become sick or
Right.
really.
It reminds me of a movie some time back called One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson as the star. That's the
Mm-hmm.
guy who flew over the cuckoo's nest. But at any rate, that's what Lou was faced with, so he ran for it. We're going to take a quick break, ladies and gentlemen, but when we come back, I'd like to pick up Mao's Great Famine and talk about how what led to Mao's Great Famine is happening right now in China. Will
It
it?
happened before in North Korea. It's the same old
Yeah.
story under the communist regime's central control economy.
As well as the Great Holodomor in Russia
Yep.
imposed on Ukraine. So, ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned. We will be right back after these very important messages for Mao's Great Famine.
Hi, folks. Warren Knox here of Knox.
Did that last time.
Save money on airfare to anywhere. Low Cost Air is the discount supermarket for all domestic and foreign airlines. A funny thing is going to happen when you call Low Cost Air. You're going to talk to a human being within 60 seconds. Save money on airfare to anywhere. Call Low Cost Air to compare at 800-704-1662. 800-704-1662.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast Fence, Cypress Coast Fence.
I'm Kevin Donovan, the owner of Cypress Coast Fence, Monterey Bay Area's premier fence company.
And I'm Katie Donovan, Kevin's sister. I'm one of the project coordinators. I'll help you choose the best fence for your needs, and I'll be with you for every step of the project.
We work with local suppliers and employ quality craftsmen to build the right fence to secure, protect, or privatize your property. We've been in business for 15 years and have been voted best fence company for 7 years running.
Give us a call for your no obligation consultation at 831-783-1500 or at cypresscoastfence.com.
We don't just build fences, we make good neighbors.
Deer fence, wood fence, livestock chain link, vinyl, iron fence, Cypress Coast Fence, Cypress Coast Fence.
The Hook is California's first ever cannabis outlet. 100% locally owned and operated, we're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. We believe that everyone should have access to fairly priced cannabis, so we work hard to get it to you for 30 to 50% less than the other guys. If you're 21 or older with a valid ID, visit us in Capitola or in Watsonville today. We're here to be your friendly neighborhood hookup. Check out our website, hookoutlet.com, for deals and stay groovy.
This is China Now. Welcome back. We are in the last half hour of hour number 2 of China Now, and we're going to take on the relationship of the federal government policy on spending and reporting and pull up Mao's Great Famine. And as a matter of fact, it's
not the federal government, the Chinese government.
Chinese government, yes. Our government would certainly not do anything like this. But, yeah, the Chinese government, CCP, what it boils down to. Whenever we say China these days, it's really the CCP we're talking about, because that is the only thing there. So with respect to the way the CCP is keeping books, as it were, we have a situation that is reminiscent of Mao's Great Famine, because in those days, back in, what was it, 56?
1958 to
58,
61.
yeah. In those days, China was heavily indebted to whom? The Soviet Union.
Yeah, Soviet Union, yes.
It had because it was buying guns and stuff, and all it had
for the Korean War.
Yep. And all it had to buy guns with was their food, which they were selling to Russia. And so where did it get the food? Well, back on the farm, you had people like Lua, who we're talking about here today, Lua Feng, who works in the countryside, keeping track of things for the CCP. And when the CCP decides that we're going to grow by 5% a year, and they hand out this dictation, okay, this is what we're going to do. All of the people who are working for the CCP out in the sticks report that that's exactly what they're doing. They're growing by 5.5%. They do it by borrowing money and building things. And gradually, they owe a lot of money, which is what happened to Mao and the CCP back in 1958. They owed all this money. Where are they going to get the money? Well, they turned on the farmers. And because over the course of time, what had happened is that the farmers were forced to report higher growth productivity than they actually had to satisfy the reporting mechanisms of the CCP and the CCP's local person. And so what happened is that, yeah, of course we grew 5%. That means we're producing this much food and this much more food every year and this much more food. So what you end up with a lot of farms that weren't producing very much, but reporting that they were producing a lot. So what did Mao and the Red Army do? They went and collected the crops.
Well, Mao had this great leap forward
Yes.
move, right? The great leap forward is to similar like Xi Jinping. He set up to go from 2020
Exactly.
to 2035 to double the GDP. Mao's goal was 5 years to catch UK and 10 years to catch United States, right? So he emphasized on two things. Number one, it's steel. Number two, it's a rice, right? So, once he set it up, then it become a beating game. Everyone try to come up with every county they try to come up with because all the officials they call it shooting the satellite. It's a contest of shooting the satellites to see whose satellite is going to go higher. Now I remember the highest the production of rice in China during that 3 years. It's close to 150,000 pounds of rice per acre. Now think about that's a Chinese acre. One Chinese acre, it's approximately about 1/6 of U.S.
They call it
acre.
a mo, right?
So mo. That's 1/6 of the acre
Right.
we use here. So now, so 1/6 of 1 acre. They in one crop of the year they're going to give the production of rice. It's close to 150,000 pounds.
Wow.
Now, so how do they do it? We don't know, but that's on the record. Okay,
Yes.
that's on the record. It's 136 jing. That's which is that's how much. That's divided by 236,000 divided by 2. That's 78,000. No. 60 70,000 is half of 140,000 is 70,000. 140,000 divided by 2, that's 70,000. And then 136,000, that will be 68,000, right?
Something like that.
Yeah,
Good enough.
68. So that's 68,000 kilogram. So 1/6 of 1 acre, the production, one crop,
incredible.
it's the 68,000 kilograms. 68,000. I think that's close to.
Now
Close
this was
100
during Mao's time, right?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
great leap forward. Now,
That's-
the problem for them is once they have that number, they report it to their superior.
Because it
Then
made him look really good, right?
yeah, but then they have to give that much rights to this, to the government, right? Because the land belongs to the government, and then your production supposed to, once you have that much production, then you have to send that much of rice
Yes.
to the government, right? So that's how once they do that down there, then they go after everybody's home to take their food and then to take everything from them. do whatever they need to make that number, solid.
To get
So
the
because
numbers, to get that 5%. Yeah, they take
yeah,
everything
yeah,
from
it seems not right now. It's that 5%, right? That's the goal. At that time, it's once they, they lie, they have to make their lie. They have to validate their lie, right? So basically, that will leave all these poor farmers without food, without any food, because everything they have, it's been taken. So that's why they start the famine. That's how the famine started.
we're out of food.
Yeah, they're
That's
basically
how
out of
what?
food.
Somewhere
And then Chairman at the same time, Chairman, the funny part of the story is Chairman Mao. It's there. He truly believe that. He's truly believe that. He's there worry. We have so much food. Where I'm going to store all this food?
and why does he have that perception? Because nobody can tell him the truth.
That's right.
And that's just exactly what we see happening today in China. In December 2023, Luo openly questioned the price of honey in local statistics. Luo's unit reported that the price of honey was 50 yuan, around $7 per kilogram, while the price was only 26 yuan per kilogram. Luo said he knew the real price because he had conducted an unauthorized survey of beekeepers in his own time and produced a report. And he was getting ready for an annual meeting on statistics. And so he printed up his report on bees and the selling price of honey and distributed it at the conference. And he told them his opinion. And Luo said told his colleagues that if all towns in China used the same data reporting procedure, Beijing would make serious policy errors, and that farmers were not able to get the support they needed because they appeared to be making a profit on the books. And that's exactly what happened in Mao's Great Famine, and how 45 to 65 million people starved to death. And they're doing the same thing all over right now in China. And it's not just farmers, it's probably everything.
Well, think about that. Some of them are some of these things happening, but the other part of the story is they're also they invest a tremendous amount of money to building the warships, missiles. Those are also a part of the GDP. Those are true.
Yes.
So and they're building up their military strengths. They don't care about their people. Uh, they openly saying that
Eat bark.
they openly say the Chinese people can survive 3 years by eating grass, and while at the same time they still building all these military, just like a Kim Jong Un in North Korea. That's what he's been doing. He doesn't care his own people. Let them survive by eating whatever. But he's keep building up his military. So China is doing the same thing. Although all this sad story come up, we need to care, but we also need to care about another part of the story. They are quickly building up their military strengths.
Yes. Which means, of course, they're going to do just exactly what Mao did to the farmers of his time.
Yeah.
They're going to take food out of their mouths and sell it to whoever will buy it, and then they'll use that money to build the ships and planes and rockets and everything with which they plan on taking over the world. I don't know, boy, that's really sad. So anyway, back to Luo. When he made his report, the local public security station summoned me the next day. Before mentioning my live stream, they asked me about the 2 meetings in March 22 and December 23 and asked if what I said during those meetings was really your view. They then questioned the state of my mind and asked whether I was in the right mind when I spoke those words. Lois said he eventually signed a document under pressure admitting that he had not been in the right state of mind. They threatened me. You are not in a good mental state. If you don't sign this, if you don't admit that the contents of the meeting were confidential, I can get a doctor now to establish your mental state. And if the doctor says you are mentally ill, we have the power and the responsibility to immediately send you to a mental hospital. And that is the story of Lois. So somehow he made the decision to run.
Yeah, I'm glad that he made that decision.
I am
I'm
too.
glad he made a decision, and that's how people escaping from the from China, that's the biggest jail in the world.
Escaping from prison. Exactly.
Yep, yep.
And then, so now he's here in the United States telling his story. Speaking of the difference between living in China and the United States, he told the reporter, the most important difference is that people are treated as human beings in the United States. People here are citizens with the right to vote, can have the freedom of speech, and they live like human beings. In the United States, I barely feel the presence of the state. What a blessing.
Yep, yep. We need to, we need to protect what we have in this country, and
And
then we need to keep the lifestyle of ourselves, and we need to make sure that our children and grandchildren still enjoy the same lifestyle that we enjoy.
it's going to take a fight.
Yep,
We don't fight, we lose.
yep.
To Neville Singham and the Party for Socialism and Liberation. There it is. So, are they a danger here in the United States? I've never heard of them, tell you the truth.
Well, we don't know if that's true. Uh, that there's that. Well, give you an example. I actually interviewed a couple union members just in the last couple days. Yes, I went to those people, they gathering together. I told them I was a reporter, so I told them, I say, why are you? I ask people, I say, well,
What are you
they say,
doing? Yeah.
yeah, what are you doing? They say they're union members. I say, well, why are you doing here? He said, well, they are. The first one, they told me the story that they have members who are deported by Trump administration. So I told him. So that was to my surprise because they are the service union
Yeah, they're a
members.
union?
Yeah, they're the government.
Government, they're a
employees,
government
right?
union.
Right.
Okay.
So then I asked.
SEIU.
Yeah. So I questioned him. I say, hey, you actually have a member who is illegal, who doesn't have a legal working status, and then he realized that he
Was
couldn't answer.
talking
And
to a
he said, oh,
reporter.
I can't tell you what happened. Some of those internal information I can't give to you. So then seeing I'm having a conversation with one union member, then I don't know, they are truly the union members. They may just claim they're union members. That's the
Yeah.
problem, right? I'm not. I asked her the lady's name. That I asked the question. I said, "Can I have your name?" And she said, she didn't want to let me know her name. So then I turn around, the next union member standing there, in the picket line. So I asked her, why are you here? And then she said, well, I see that the ICE member, the immigration officers, went into Home Depot to arrest the people, so and deport them. That was another story. So I asked her. I say, hey, uh, which Home Depot? Let me know, and I will call them. So I would be, I will be happy
Sure.
to call them to verify if it's true. I will write a report for it, right? Because
Sure.
I'm the reporter, right? So and then she couldn't tell me which Home Depot. Then I asked her, "Are you sure that the immigration officer actually went into the store of Home Depot and arrested their employees?" And then her story changes. So, well, maybe they arrest them from the Home Depot's parking lot. Well, that make me understand, right? You have you have some of the people, some of the amigos there. They're trying to get their work. They're not the Home Depot employees, right? So you see how these stories start changing when you really dig into it.
Well,
Uh,
it sounds like to me like these people were doing what they were told to do.
Right.
I
I
mean, if
don't
you're a
think they
member of a
really
union,
actually. Well, first of all, I don't know if they are the true union members as they claim they are.
right?
And number two, I don't know if they, at least if you're union member, you want to dedicate your work, you actually go to the picket line, you go to join the
Sure.
protest. At least you want to think about if those stories are true, right? So
So,
that's why it's make me doubt if they are the true union
yeah.
members.
Well, who is the Party for Socialism and Liberation?
Well,
Be-
that's they self-claim Marxism and Leninism party. They are the
okay.
Communist Party basically.
Do we know if they're the same people as the people that wear black and wear face shields, and so you can't see who they are?
Well, we don't know. You
Antifa
can't you
thing.
can't you can't identify
Yeah,
them in the crowd, but that's what that's based on what's reported. One of the three main organizers. It's the PSL, and I went back to check. PSL was they were formerly as a part of uh uh in what was a war workers party or something,
oh,
and
War
then like
Fighters Party.
international,
Okay.
yeah, war workers party or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah, so in formally it's international some sort of a workers party. um
there you
so
go.
that they were established, I believe, as I read, I forgot, I think it's 2004 they was the PSL was established in 2004.
And then there's the Coalition for Human Immigrant Rights, which received $34 million in 2023 from the taxpayers of California, and another 450,000 in grants from the federal government, Department of Homeland Security. So it
Well,
seems like these groups
based
are
on what you're reading, Michael, the PSL ever receive any federal money?
no. It
Okay,
instead points to Singham as being its principal
okay,
source of money.
okay.
Yeah. So it seems like there are a lot of groups that are getting a lot of money to raise a lot of hell. And
Right.
the interesting thing is, they don't seem to have a focused reason to be raising all this hell. Like the union people you interviewed seemed to be angry, but they didn't seem to be very angry. I heard somebody was arrested at Home Depot. Well, and then there's the Palestinians are there too, burning things up, and that's entirely not related in any way that I can see to ICE enforcing immigration. But maybe it is. I don't know. Everything seems to be very confused and leaderless but with a leader. It seems like there's a leader because they all know where to go, when to get there, and then they'll be supplied with everything they need when they get there.
Yeah, that's interesting, right?
So that is the situation. It'll be interesting to see if the FBI can find out who's funding these things at any rate. That's pretty much been our
Yeah, somebody need to do an investigation job, I think.
Yeah. What's going on? You know, I'm curious. I'm just curious. What is going on? Who's doing this? It seems to be like a lot of different disparate groups who have a major issue, an issue that's sufficient to get them to burn down the city, as it were. But I can't perceive what the real reason is yet. I wish somebody would tell me. Well, that has been China Now for today. We really thank you all for tuning in. It's been a lot of fun talking about what the heck's going on with our world, and there's a lot. So stay tuned next week. We're going to be taking it on again. What do you think the big story of the week's going to be, Nansu?
Next week?
Yes.
Well, we need to find out if Xi Jinping is going to visit Central Asia.
There, that's the big story. Keep an eye peeled for Xi Jinping. Is he still there? We really don't know. Thank you all for tuning in. China Now. Thank you, Nansu. And thank you all.